17 minutes. I know the exact number because I checked the clock 3 times, hoping it would change, hoping I had misread it, hoping that time, for once, had been exaggerating. It wasn't. 17 minutes without a pulse. No heartbeat, no blood pressure, no circulation that should have sustained a human brain. By every definition I was trained to trust, the man on the table in front of me was already gone. And yet, my hands were still moving. I've been a doctor long enough to stop romanticizing emergency medicine. There is nothing heroic about it up close. It's loud, repetitive, procedural. You follow algorithms, you execute steps. You rely on muscle memory because thinking too much gets people killed. That night, everything followed the rules. That was the problem. The patient arrived just after midnight. The paramedics were already exhausted when they rolled him in, which told me everything I needed to know before they said a word. Male. 38. Cardiac arrest at work. Immediate collapse. CPR started within seconds. They had done their job well. Too well, almost. Which meant that if he wasn't responding now, he probably never would. We transferred him to our bed in one practiced motion. Tubes, lines, monitors, a choreography we all knew by heart. Time without pulse? I asked. Approximately 12 minutes before arrival, the paramedic said. Brief return in the ambulance, lost it again 2 minutes out. I nodded. 12 minutes already. That number sat heavy in my chest. We started immediately. Airway secured, medications pushed, compressions deep and steady, defibrillation when indicated. Nothing. The monitor showed electrical activity, chaotic, useless, the kind that looks busy but does no real work. A heart firing without purpose. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. Again, nothing. Time moved differently then. It always does. Seconds stretch, minutes blur. The clock becomes both enemy and judge. At 7 minutes in the room, I felt the shift. That subtle change when optimism quietly leaves and professionalism takes over. When no one says, "We've got this" anymore. When voices drop, we kept going. At 10 minutes, my thoughts narrowed. At 12, I stopped thinking entirely and let training carry me. At 15, I started preparing myself to stop. People think doctors fight death endlessly. We don't. We fight uncertainty. Once certainty arrives, continuing becomes cruelty to the patient, to the family, to ourselves. I looked at the clock. 17 minutes since the last confirmed pulse. I checked again. Nothing. The room waited. That's the moment no one warns you about. The exact second when everyone stops looking at the patient and starts looking at you. Authority doesn't feel powerful then. It feels isolating. Because whatever you say next becomes the truth officially, irreversibly. I opened my mouth and didn't speak. Something about the stillness bothered me. Not the monitor, not the numbers, the man himself. I can't explain it in a way that would satisfy a textbook. His chest wasn't moving, his skin was cool, his eyes were closed in that way that offers no negotiation. And still, something in me resisted the conclusion. Not hope. Resistance? I checked his pupils. Fixed, but not fully dilated. I checked for a pulse again. Slower, more deliberate. Nothing. 17 minutes. My mind listed facts like a defense attorney preparing a case. 17 minutes without circulation equals severe brain damage at best. Survival rates drop sharply after 10. Beyond 15, outcomes become statistically irrelevant. I knew all of that. I taught some of it. And still, I waited. "Doctor," someone said quietly. I looked up. They weren't rushing me. They weren't questioning me. They were ready. Ready to stop. Ready to let me say it. "Continue," I said. The word surprised even me. One more round. I told myself it was closure. That I needed to be absolutely certain. That stopping now would feel incomplete. That was only half true. The other half was simpler. I wasn't ready to accept that 17 minutes had decided everything. We resumed. Compressions, medication, monitoring. I watched the monitor more closely now, searching for meaning in noise. Then it happened. Not a miracle, not a dramatic return. A breath. Shallow, involuntary, almost resentful, like the body objected to being asked. Agonal respiration, my mind immediately supplied. A reflex, not life. "Did you see that?" someone asked. "Yes," I said. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. The breath didn't repeat. Logic slammed back into place like a door. I nodded slowly. Okay. I was ready now. And then the monitor changed, just slightly. A rhythm tried to form, weak, disorganized, fragile. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't effective. But it wasn't nothing. Check pulse, I said. I did it myself. This time, my fingers hesitated, not because I expected to find something, but because I was afraid of what it would mean if I did. It was there, faint, uneven, barely holding on, but real. The room changed instantly. Not celebration, focus. Because bringing a pulse back after 17 minutes isn't a victory. It's a gamble. We stabilized him as best we could and transferred him to the ICU. As the doors closed behind the bed, I finally looked at the clock again. 17 minutes. The number stared back at me, unchanged. I leaned against the wall for a moment longer than necessary. My hands were steady. My mind was not. That night, long after the department quieted, the question arrived. Not from a colleague, not from a chart. From inside me. Had we practiced medicine? Or had we crossed into something we didn't understand? I didn't have an answer. And that unsettled me more than the arrest itself. The ICU swallowed him the way it always does, efficiently, impersonally, with doors that close too softly for what they separate. Once the bed disappeared down the corridor, the emergency department resumed its rhythm. Another ambulance arrived, another monitor beeped. Someone asked me to sign a chart. Life moved on with unsettling speed. I didn't. In the hours that followed, I replayed the arrest in fragments. The clock, my hands, the breath that shouldn't have mattered and somehow did. 17 minutes without a pulse does not end well. That truth is drilled into you early in training, reinforced by outcomes, studies, experience. You don't forget it. You build your expectations around it. And expectations are how doctors survive. I went to the ICU near the end of my shift. He lay motionless, surrounded by machines that hummed with quiet authority. Cooling protocol had already begun, ice packs, chilled fluids, an attempt to protect what might still be salvageable. The monitor showed a rhythm. Slow, fragile, but organized. Alive. The intensivist briefed me quickly. We'll know more in 24 to 48 hours. Neurology will reassess once he's rewarmed. I nodded. That window, the waiting, is the hardest part. Not knowing if what you saved will ever wake up. When my shift finally ended, I went home and sat in the dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I stared at my hands. Doctors don't usually think about their hands beyond utility. They are tools trained, reliable, obedient. That night, they felt unfamiliar, as if they had done something on their own. The first update came 12 hours later. He's stable, the ICU nurse said over the phone. No deterioration. That should have reassured me. It didn't. Stability after prolonged arrest is deceptive. The real damage hides. It waits. The next day, neurology ran their exams. Pupils, reflexes, imaging. Every test felt like a verdict delayed. The neurologist was careful with her words, too careful to mean anything definitive. There are signs of injury, she said, but not catastrophic. It's better than expected. Better than expected after 17 minutes was still a sentence I didn't trust. I avoided the patient's family. Not because I didn't care, because I didn't know what to say. Families cling to words, and I had none that were honest without being cruel. He's alive can be both a promise and a warning. On the third day, they reduced sedation. I stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, pretending I was there by coincidence. His eyes fluttered beneath closed lids. Someone called his name. No response. Then a small movement, fingers curling, then relaxing. My chest tightened. Movement doesn't mean awareness. It doesn't mean recovery, but it means the brain is still talking to the body. That matters. When he finally opened his eyes, it wasn't dramatic. No gasp, no tears. Just confusion. He stared at the ceiling as if it had betrayed him. I stepped closer. "Can you hear me?" I asked. His gaze shifted slowly, imperfectly toward my voice. A nod. Barely. That nod felt heavier than the entire resuscitation. Later, when he could speak, he asked only one thing. How long? I knew what he meant. I told him the truth. 17 minutes. He frowned, processing the number. That's a long time, he said. Yes, I replied. It is. He was quiet for a while. Then he said something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't feel dead. I waited. Doctors learn quickly not to fill silence. It was like being underwater, he continued. Pressure, No sound, no panic, just waiting. I nodded. Non committal. I'd heard variations of this before. The brain under stress does strange things. Hypoxia distorts perception. Memory fills gaps creatively. I knew the explanations. They didn't make his words feel smaller. The internal review began the same day. Charts requested. Timelines examined. CPR quality analyzed down to compression, depth, and rate. They were looking for a reason. So was I. Everything checked out. Which made it worse. One of the administrators asked me directly, "Why didn't you terminate earlier?" It wasn't an accusation. It was curiosity wrapped in concern. I considered my answer carefully. Because stopping felt premature, I said. Based on what? He hesitated. Based on the patient. They didn't like that. He continued to improve. Slowly, unevenly, but consistently. Speech returned. Memory sharpened. Motor function stabilized. There were gaps, minutes, hours he would never recall, but his personality remained intact. That, more than anything, unsettled me. Because it wasn't supposed to. I watched him walk for the first time. Unsteady. Assisted, but upright. 17 minutes without a pulse, and he was standing. My mind searched desperately for explanations. Exceptional CPR, rapid intervention, statistical outlier. All true, all insufficient. The day he left the ICU, he asked to speak to me. I was told you stayed, he said. Yes. You could have stopped. Yes. Why didn't you? The question was simple. The answer wasn't. I don't know, I said finally. I just felt it wasn't over. He smiled faintly. I'm glad you felt that. That night, alone again, the doubt returned sharper this time. Not about whether I did the right thing, but about why it worked. Medicine had given me outcomes before. This had given me a mystery, and I wasn't sure which one frightened me more. The recovery was too clean. That was the first thing that bothered me. I had expected setbacks, confusion, personality changes, subtle losses that only appear once the adrenaline fades. That's usually how it goes after prolonged cardiac arrest. Survival is rarely tidy, but as the days passed, he improved in a way that felt orderly. He remembered his name. He recognized faces. He followed conversations without drifting. The neurologist used phrases like remarkably preserved and better than we typically see. Typically. That word again. The committee wanted answers. They always do, because unexplained outcomes make institutions nervous. They expose the limits of control, and control is what keeps systems functioning. We sat in a windowless room with charts projected on the wall, timelines dissected, numbers highlighted. 17 minutes without a palpable pulse, one of them said. Are we certain about that? Yes, I replied. Multiple checks, multiple providers. Could there have been intermittent flow we missed? Possible, I admitted, but unlikely enough to explain this outcome. They exchanged glances. I recognized that look. It was the look people give when they don't like the implications of certainty or uncertainty. One of the senior reviewers leaned back in his chair. Sometimes, he said carefully, outliers happen. That doesn't mean the rules are wrong. I agree, I said. Then why are you here? The question wasn't hostile. It was diagnostic. I thought for a moment, because I don't think this was luck alone. Silence. That's not a comfortable position, someone said. I'm aware. The patient was transferred to a regular floor. I visited him less often now, partly because my presence wasn't necessary, partly because I was afraid of what more contact might do. Not to him. To me. He had started asking questions not just about his condition, but about the moment itself. What happens when the heart stops? How long can the brain last? Did you think I was gone? I answered honestly, but cautiously. Yes, I told him. At one point I did. And then I wasn't sure. He laughed quietly. That's a strange thing to hear. It's a strange place to be, I said. He studied my face. You look like you're still there. Still there. As if part of me hadn't left that room yet. A resident approached me later that week. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Do you think there was something else? I knew what she meant. No, I said quickly, too quickly. She nodded, unconvinced but respectful. I just can't make the numbers work, she said. Neither could I. The patient began physical therapy. I watched him take his first unassisted steps, slow, deliberate, careful. Each step felt like an argument against everything I had been taught. I wanted to celebrate. Instead, I felt uneasy, because when outcomes defy explanation, They don't just challenge knowledge, they challenge identity. One evening, he said something that stayed with me. I don't remember anything dramatic, he said, but I remember a sense of waiting, like something was unfinished. Inoded non committal. I don't think I was supposed to be gone yet, he added almost apologetically. I didn't respond. Not because I disagreed, because I couldn't afford to agree. The review concluded with no formal action. No reprimand, no commendation. Just a note about extended resuscitation time and adherence to evolving guidelines. A compromise that allowed everyone to move on. Everyone but me. I started reading again. Not textbooks, case reports, anomalies, rare survivals, situations pushed to the edge of physiology. They existed. Few, scattered, poorly understood. Outlier. That word again. Outliers are easy to dismiss. They are also easy to remember. Late one night, after a long shift, I stood alone in a trauma bay. Empty bed. Quiet monitors. I imagined stopping earlier. Imagined saying the words. Imagined walking away. The image didn't haunt me. What haunted me was how reasonable it looked. I realized then that the hardest part of medicine isn't making decisions. It's living with the ones that don't come with explanations. The patient was discharged 2 weeks later. Before he left, he asked me one last question. Do you think I was gone? I looked at him. 17 minutes. No pause. Yes, I said. I think you were. He nodded slowly. Then I guess I'm lucky. I didn't correct him. Because look implies randomness. And this felt like something else entirely. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid. Because I was unsettled by the possibility that we understand far less than we pretend. Time did what it always does. It dulled the edges. Not the memory that stayed sharp, but the urgency. The constant need to explain. The restless urge to turn one impossible case into something orderly. Something that fit. Years passed. New residents came and went. Protocols were updated. Equipment improved. Survival curves shifted slightly, proudly, as if progress itself could erase anomalies. But every once in a while, 17 minutes would surface in my mind uninvited, unannounced, usually in the quiet moments when nothing demanded my attention. Those were the dangerous moments. I changed after that case. Not visibly, not in ways anyone could chart. I still followed protocols, still taught by the book, still corrected residents when they strayed too far into speculation. But inside, something had loosened. I no longer believed that certainty was the same thing as truth. I became known as someone who waited a little longer. Not recklessly, not dramatically. Just longer. One more pulse check. One more look. One more moment before calling it. No one challenged me on it. The difference was subtle enough to go unnoticed except by me. I didn't see the patient again for a long time. Not because I avoided him. Because life, once returned, has a way of pulling people forward. Until one afternoon, years later, I recognized his name on a follow-up consult. Same spelling, same date of birth. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. He looked different, healthier, older, grounded in a way people are when they've survived something they don't fully understand. He smiled when he saw me. You look the same, he said. I didn't comment on how that wasn't entirely true. We sat across from each other in a quiet room, neither quite sure who had the right to speak first. I wanted to thank you again, he said. You already did, I replied. Yes, but this is different. I waited. I never told you this, he said slowly, choosing his words carefully. I don't remember being gone, but I remember the moment before I came back. My chest tightened. What do you remember? I asked. Resistance, he said. Like something didn't want me to leave yet. Not a voice, not a vision, just pressure. I nodded. The neurologist in me catalogued explanations immediately. Hypoxia, cortical misfiring, memory reconstruction. They lined up neatly. They didn't feel sufficient. I don't think it was about me, he continued. I think it was about timing. Timing of what? I asked. He smiled faintly. Of you stopping. I didn't respond. Because if he was right, if timing, hesitation, doubt had mattered, then this story wasn't about physiology at all. It was about presence. After he left, I sat alone for a long time. Not searching for answers. Just sitting with the weight of not having them. I realized then that my discomfort had never been about the unexplained. It had been about control. Doctors like explanations because they make outcomes feel earned. This one hadn't been. It had simply happened. I stopped looking for the reason he survived. I stopped rereading studies, stopped comparing numbers, stopped trying to make the impossible polite. Instead, I accepted something harder. That medicine is not a closed system. That biology does not always obey our timelines. That sometimes survival is not a reward for doing everything right, but the result of staying just a moment longer than logic recommends. Years later, I still teach. And when residents ask me how long is too long during a resuscitation, I give them the correct answer. Then I add something else. Watch the patient, I tell them, not just the monitor. They nod, thinking they understand. Someday, maybe, they will. The last time I checked a pulse that wasn't there, I felt the old tension rise. The urge to search, to question, to doubt. But this time, nothing returned. And I accepted that too, because uncertainty cuts both ways. 17 minutes without a pulse. I still don't know how he lived. I know only this. That night didn't change the rules of medicine. It changed how I stand inside them. There was another patient. There always is. Years after the case of 17 minutes, on a night that felt ordinary in every way, another man lay on a table in front of me with a heart that would not cooperate. Different aga, different story, Zama stillness. The room felt familiar, not because of the equipment or the staff, but because of the pause that settled in before the end. That quiet space where action slows and meaning presses in. We worked him hard, cleanly, correctly, and still, nothing. I checked the clock. 9 minutes. 12. 14. I felt the old tension rise, not panic, not hope awareness. This time, I watched myself as much as the patient. I watched my hands, my breathing. The way doubt tried to enter not loudly, but politely. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. Again. Nothing. I looked at the monitor, flat, unforgiving. The team waited. They always do. For a moment, 17 minutes hovered in my mind like a challenge. What if? What if you wait? What if this is another outlier? That thought scared me more than stopping ever had, because it wasn't about the patient anymore, it was about the story. And stories have no place deciding outcomes. I stepped back. I took one more full look at the man in front of me, not searching for signs, not negotiating with silence. Just looking. There was nothing left to listen for. I nodded. Time of death, I said. The words landed gently, correctly. The room moved on. So did I. Later that night, alone in the locker room, I understood something I hadn't before. The lesson of 17 minutes was never that I should always wait. It was that I should never assume waiting or stopping is the same thing as caring. Both are acts of responsibility. Both require attention. Medicine didn't fail me that night years ago, and it didn't transcend itself either. What happened wasn't magic. It wasn't a miracle. It was a convergence of timing, physiology, persistence, and a moment where doubt was allowed to exist without taking control. That's rarer than people think. I still sign death certificates. My handwriting is the same, my pen is the same, but my pause is different. Not longer, not shorter, just honest. I don't tell young doctors to chase impossible outcomes. I tell them something simpler. Be precise, I say, and be present, because presence is what lets you notice when there's nothing left. And when, just once in a lifetime, there might be. 17 minutes without a pulse. I still don't understand how he lived, but I finally understand why that question mattered so much to me. I wanted certainty to protect me from responsibility. Instead, responsibility taught me how to live with uncertainty. That man went back to his life. I went back to mine. The hospital kept turning, and somewhere between the noise and the silence, I learned this. Medicine doesn't always save people, but when it does, it's rarely because we know something. It's because, for a brief moment, we pay attention well enough not to miss it.